Hello and welcome to episode 127 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and Wilds of Eldraine has just dropped yesterday as of the recording of this podcast. So we're going to get into that and some cards we think you should pick up in your drafts. But first, each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
Okay, I am excited for this one. So this week I've brought something from a local brewery called
Mhm.
Barrel Heart. Um, Basically, I met this guy at a farmer's market near my house,
Oh.
Lancaster Farmers Market, and he asked me if I wanted to try some beer, which of course I said, yeah. So he had some beers for me to try. They were nice. And I found out that he does like barrel aged saisons,
Mhm.
basically, is his shtick. So it's not really like a brewery. It's this guy's a barrel house and he just has a bunch of
Mhm.
saisons and he makes some that are kind of like winey in flavor, some that are more beer forward. And so I picked a couple that looked really interesting. So here we have Washed Away by Sea, and this
Mhm.
is an aged Goza at 6.5%. So I expect it to be kind of salty,
Mhm.
um,
Well,
and maybe a little funky from the age process.
Jeff, I mean, there is a poem on the bottle. You're not going to read the poem? It's
All right,
Here
all
we
right.
go.
Riding in the surf, tumbled and tumbled beneath, salt water up the nose. The brain gives sweet relief, thinking you have been washed away by sea.
Love it. Oh, that was beautiful, Jeff. So good.
Thank you.
No, and I also was just reading that, and it's so cool and interesting. And there's a little blurb on this on their website, and the descriptions of the beers have some things talking about flavor, but most of it is talking about the feeling he's hoping you'll get, and part of it is, uh, you know, uh, spending time in the Pacific Ocean and getting obviously salt water up your nose and being just kind of in this salty, kind of briny world, which seems really cool for a Goza. Obviously, salt pairs well with that. We see that a lot, but I'm excited for this. This is gonna be pretty sweet. These look
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
So
Plus, he was a really nice guy and was very passionate. You could tell. So I wanted
nice.
to support him as well.
Perfect.
All
All right.
right.
Let's get into it. Uh, Also, I do appreciate that the barrel heart, it's like an actual picture of a heart, like a real heart.
Right. Not like yeah,
Cartoony
not like
Valentine's Day
the
one.
the cartoon part.
Yeah. So there's a little cool thing. The bottle cap has like I'm trying to show this and pour. This is a bad idea. But if you can see, it's like a barrel and a heart. Anyway, it didn't really focus, but um,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool.
I like the logo they went with.
All right, Jeff. Cheers. Ah, it's good to be back. Mm. Anyway, we have some magic news. Like I said before, Wilds of Eldraine is now on Arena. You can draft it right now, which is fantastic. I did it today while I was volunteering at the Toronto International Film Festival because I had nothing to do. I was just standing around, so I got to play some Magic on my phone. Um, Also, the Arena Open is September 16th and 17th, which is going to be Wilds of Eldraine Limited, as well as the qualifier weekend at the end of the month is also um, Wilds of Eldraine Limited, and that is September 30th and October 1st. So a lot of limited, which, as we've said every time they do this, and basically ever since William Huey Jensen got part of the OP like Play Network thing, we've been getting smart decisions made from the Arena team. I don't know if he directly talks to the folks making the events for Arena, but they just make a lot more sense since he's been working for them, which is like,
Yeah.
this is how we schedule it. This is what people want to play at these times. Limited at the beginning of the set is really fun. Limited at the end of the set not as fun. you know,
Pretty
it's
basic.
pretty basic, but anyway, it can
Yeah.
easily be forgotten, especially the way that they used to do things. God.
Yeah, I haven't played in any of these yet, but I just love that. Like right after a set comes out, limited for
Yeah.
competitive events. That's the way it
Boom,
should be.
boom. It is. It definitely is. Now, if only I'd be able to play them since I work on the weekends. Meh, meh. But anyway, I hope all of you are getting out and playing some of those, or staying in more so and playing those events. Super cool. As well as all of September, if you go out to your LGS, you can get some experience points for your Mastery Pass by playing Magic at your local game store. Look at that. Harmony. Magic is healing. It's coming together.
Finally.
I love it. Crazy it took so long. And will continue to take even longer. Before we actually get into the cards and our lists and all the things we're excited about for this set, Jeff, have you been able to log into Arena recently? Like within the last couple days?
I think I did.
Because we have just a couple little new things, which I thought we should just highlight. They weren't really in any of the like articles that came out, but number one is they changed how you open booster packs. The animation for booster pack openings is different,
Mm.
and it's really cool. And it's also makes you feel like you get so much stuff. So if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, basically like they very much focused on like you can always click the open all your packs button, just open all of them.
Hmm.
And when it does that, it just a pack rips open and cards fly out of it and shoots across the screen, and it scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls, and then it shows your rares and mythics in one slot, and you're getting wild cards as it opens, and there's things turning and lights flashing. It's a lot more exciting, and it makes it look like you're getting a ton more stuff every time you open booster packs, which I obviously
That's
know
awesome.
isn't true, but it feels really cool. So great change. That wasn't even something I cared about or was on my radar at all, but I didn't know
Yeah.
I needed it until it happened. So super cool. Good job. That's
Yeah, okay. I'm interested to check it out now. I think
yeah.
like would it be any different if I only opened one pack at a time?
I don't know. So I haven't tried that yet. Um,
Okay.
but the least amount I've opened is probably like 3, and it still felt like cool.
Hmm.
Um, so instead of where
Because
they'd
I
be
feel like I opened a pack the other day, but I didn't notice this.
okay, well, maybe it's only if you have 2 or more. Who knows? But anyway, that's super cool. Also, Jeff, did you notice there is a new quest meter that has been added to our quests? Not like a you have 3 quests and one of them is like a new one I haven't had before. It's an
That
actual like that would be
that's what I was thinking. I
interesting.
was like, how am I supposed to notice
How Zach, what the fuck? Why are you saying this?
that?
Like that's so lame. Oh, is
Yeah.
it play 30 colorless cards? No. Um it's actually like you have like your 3 quests, and then you have your daily wins, and then you have your weekly whatever. And now there's another one. There's a new thing they added. Now, this one's a little bit more controversial in my mind.
Mm.
So it's apparently it's the same for everybody. So I've seen a lot of people post up what they're like, what is this? I've never seen this before, and everyone has the same one as me. So the quest currently is to play 3 like 3 quick drafts. I'm pretty sure it's 3 whole quick drafts. Actually, maybe I should double check at this very second, because in my mind it was you have to play 3 entire full quick drafts to actually get this to finish. So I'm going to load up Arena just to double check so I'm not saying anything wrong, because that seemed like a very high steep cost. I was like, you have to draft specifically quick drafts 3 times, and the reward is 1,000 gold. So I was like,
Yeah, I just wouldn't
that's
bother.
so not okay. So this is fantastic because as I checked it, and I'm really happy I did, and I didn't think of it until right now because I was kind of mad. Now I'm less mad. It's
Okay.
just complete 3 quick draft matches. So you just have to
Okay. So you do
basically
one quick draft,
you want do
probably.
one. You do 1 quick draft essentially. So that is actually kind of cool. I don't know. I haven't tried doing it yet because obviously the only quick draft right now is like March of the Machine, and I don't want to play that. So because there's a new limited format, so like, why am I going
Yeah.
to quick draft March of the Machine? But it's interesting to have something like that, and what I mean, new stuff is new stuff, and new rewards or whatever. I so far don't think it's worth it because for all the reasons I just said, but I like that they're trying to give us more things. So without making a big deal about it, like, here's a news article, here's an email about this new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if it's on top of other stuff, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't let it influence me too much. Like if we're talking 1,000 gold, that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
um, I
I
can
mean,
get
because
that incidentally, right, from my
it's
other
true,
stuff rather than
but you can get this on top of that. So are you saying right now you
yes.
will never do this? Because you don't quick draft. I
Well,
I don't quick draft really.
I probably will never do it if it
Okay.
doesn't change. Like if it changes to play in a standard, like if it changes to something
You're
I
doing,
do,
then it'll
then
happen.
hey, 1,000 free gold or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably how I will treat it. Or if the amount of gold goes up, it could be worth it. Like I don't know, it could even be worth it now if you look at the cost to enter a quick draft, shave 1,000 gold off that, then what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Risk, like the
Because
cost
it's
breakdown.
the cost, like, I think it costs like 5,000 gold to enter a
Right.
quick draft. So you're getting a fifth of it back plus whatever prizes. So not
My guess is the prizes are still too crappy to make that worth it because
mhm,
quick draft prizes are bad. Um, but like it changes the math for sure.
mhm.
But even that aside, like generally quick drafts are formats that I don't feel like playing. So
It's true.
yeah, that's kind of the big knock against it for me. If there's a quick draft that comes around that's like, oh, I do really feel like playing that format. I
Mhm.
loved it. It's just like that does I'm not usually that guy. For me, like a limited format is kind of done when I'm done
When
with
it's
it.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that if you're new to Arena or you've been playing, you're trying to build up your collection, I do think that drafting older sets is a pretty good way of getting some of those things. Like drafting on Arena in general is a good way to get backlog of sets. However, you may be disappointed uh, because you might get a bunch of cool, interesting cards that are see no play, and then you just spend a lot of time doing that. But if you don't already have the cards or haven't played that draft format before, they're still super fun and they are worth it. But in general, we've said this on some other podcasts as well, but the EV, you have to win more times in a quick draft to get your money back as opposed to the premier ones. So just keep that in mind when you get sucked into this. And I agree with you that mine will probably stay there for quite a while. And it will stay there basically forever if I have to join like an alchemy, uh, like an alchemy event
Yeah.
or something, or historic, like, hey, play in this historic event. Uh-oh.
No, for you, it's specifically always going to be March of the Machine limited.
Well, yeah, yeah. Like as soon as even the quick draft format rotates out, it just says for Zach, it just March of the Machine Limited. I'm like, no, I don't like this set. Oh, oh. So, though I will have to say, so far, I've only drafted a couple times for this new set for
Mhm.
Wilds of the Eldraine, and I like it a lot. I think the cards are super awesome. I think the set's going to be sweet. I don't know anything yet, but it's so much better than March of the Machine. I'm just happy again. I
Well,
feel
that's
like
good. That's
we've been
good.
in such a drought. I know there was like Lord of the Rings and stuff, but it feels like we're finally back in. I feel like I was like falling out for a little bit. I was missing some stuff. I played another card game for a while, and now we're back. It's so great.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back, baby. It's just nice.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff, as we get into this, would we like to remind everyone the number one most important rule when a set drops and what you need to have on hand when you go into your first draft?
Absolutely. So the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing to remember when drafting a new set is that rare drafting is a good thing. Rare drafting is encouraged. It is not only okay, some people will tell you it's not okay. It is encouraged, highly
Mm-hmm.
encouraged. And the way we like to handle that here on the Arena Regulars is we like to just get it done before we even sit down at the table to draft. So what do? We take a look at the set. We pick all the cards that we definitely know we want. That can be, I want 2 of these to try out in some crazy deck, or that can be, this is a kind of card that I like. Uh, I'm almost sure I'm going to use it at some point. Or it can even just be, I think this card's pretty good. I want 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But figure those out ahead of time, write them down, or at least make a mental note of them. And this is what we call a no pass list. And that way, when you're sitting down at the draft table and you open one of these rares, but then you also open a really good limited card, and maybe these rares aren't that good for your deck, or just aren't good limited cards, you don't have to sit there doing the hemming and hawing of while your clock is winding down and you probably haven't even read all the cards yet. Um, you just pick the rare and you relax.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really come in handy for me. Um, I love doing this now because it's just like, ooh, it's on the list. I don't have to worry about it. Click, click,
Mm-hmm.
click. Um, yeah, it just makes things super simple.
Yeah. And I know Jeff said that you don't have to write it down, though I do think that like it's good practice to do that, or at least put it on your phone or have some place where you can look at it. Because sometimes when you have a mental note, you'll see a card be like, oh, whoops, did I forget that card? And you try to go back and like go through your catalog.
Exactly.
And so you
Yeah.
start thinking about it. Um, we don't want to have to worry about that. Go in with a plan. Having a plan is the best thing. Um, yeah. So we're not going to go through all of the cards on our list, but they're fairly small most of the time. I think what I have, besides the card we always pick for a thing, I have like 6 other cards. So,
Yeah.
ultimately it's like 7 to 11, really. Um, so yeah, just a small portion. It doesn't have to be huge, because I think when people talk about not liking rare drafting or just in general thinking that rare drafting is a bad thing, it's just anytime you see any rare of any kind, and then your deck just looks like rares from all 5 colors that don't make a deck. Um, that can be the case, uh, and sometimes that's just not necessary. Like you don't need to waste a pick on that. But if it's a card that you know you're going to use, wild cards are very important. They're the best thing in the game. So make sure you conserve yours and don't waste them on stuff. Pick
Yeah,
them
I
in the
think a
draft.
lot of the rhetoric around not rare drafting too comes from like the community of people that only play limited. There's
Hmm.
a bit of like if your sole in goal, the only thing you care about is doing as well in the draft as possible, then yeah, rare drafting doesn't make sense. You should
Hmm.
take the best card for your deck at all times. But if you, building up a collection to play other formats is even a secondary goal for you, that's when rare drafting really starts to matter because the extra quality of one slight, like you have to remember when you take a good card in a pack, you're not taking it over nothing, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, there's a rare that doesn't go in my deck, or there's a good card I add to my deck. Well, that good card you're taking is kicking out another card that would be in your deck. So what you're doing is you're upgrading your 23rd card
Hmm.
to something that's
Your
stronger.
your 24th card. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not as like, oh, I don't have this good card at all, and then I have this great card. It's an upgrade, but
Hmm.
in the terms of your actual deck and how well you're going to do in the draft, it's a mild upgrade, even if it's one of the best commons in the set, because the likelihood that you draw that card often enough to make a difference in terms of how many prize packs you win is just not worth. There's a rare here that I know I want for my collection. It's
Hmm.
just not the incremental value you get is just not worth it. And so you will see people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't rare draft," and that's assuming you're trying to optimize for winning the draft and nothing else.
Hmm.
We know that most people, I would say, play Arena are drafting because they like drafting, but also because they want to build their collection and
Hmm.
maybe eventually build a deck for standards. So, or for whatever format.
Yeah, I think it's also important to know that like when you're drafting on Arena, like we mostly hear it. I think most everyone plays best of one for draft, which actually for some reason just becomes a lot more fun than best of three, um,
Yeah,
because you just the rhythm of it feels better, and you don't have to win your whole draft to get your money back and then continue drafting. Like you you are successful if you go 4-3 or 5-3 in my mind. As soon as I get up to 4 or 5 wins,
yeah,
that's it. I did it. I did the draft. If I get to 7, that's a great trophy. Hooray! I get brownie points and stuff. But like 4 and 5, I feel super solid. My deck did what it's supposed to do. I won more than I lost, and I got cards for my deck, and I have enough to draft again to get more cards for more decks. Um,
yeah.
so
Four is where I'm happy.
yeah.
Four
So that
wins.
feeling is different that if you're playing at your local game store and you're doing 3 matches, best of three, and you want to go 3-0, and if you go 2-1, you feel good, but not great. Um, and you want to go like, you really want to get the 3-0. So I think that's also where I've softened quite a bit as well, being like, yeah, it's take that sweet mythic rare, take the Ashiok that's not going to be good in your deck, but it will be fun in your standard deck or anything. So I don't know. I know we're harping on this a lot this episode, but it comes up every year or every set, and I just still think it's important to say that because people really want you to feel the opposite, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Don't listen to them.
Hmm. Don't
Rare
listen
draft
to
to
him.
your heart's content. If you want
Yes.
to just take every single rare you see, go for it.
You can, just don't expect to win. But yes, you can for sure. Um, and obviously, hate drafting doesn't matter in Arena. Okay, so we went through all the normal spiel with some extra sauce on it. The rest of the normal spiel is also, we've said this in the last episode we had, but the number one thing that should be on your pass list, no pass list, mine, Jeff's, everyone who plays Arena, are the dual lands, the rare dual lands that are in every set. Though, Jeff, I did want to bring up this. So for this set, they're creature lands that come into play tapped. They only do 2 colors, blah, 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 blah. With standard going into a 3-year rotation, this is our first year of having an extra set in standard. And we're continuing into our 3-year standard now. Do we think that there will be a point where we actually don't have to be as focused on these dual rare lands because we already have mana bases that are strong? Like normally standard, your mana base is really, really tight, and it's really important to make sure you have all of them. Now that we're going into just an abundance, do you think we're going to come to a place where, hey, you can skip these ones, or don't, you already have your mana base, don't worry about it at all?
Maybe. I think it's possible with stuff like the God, what were they called?
The snarls.
The snarls. Like snarls are just so bad that in a 3-year standard, there's almost no way they're
Hmm.
playable. In a 2-year standard, sure, you some decks
Hmm.
had to play them if you were like the bad color pairs that had to rely
Yeah,
on
if you
snarls.
chose
That was a
that color
bummer,
pair,
but
yeah.
yeah. But that, it's nice to have them because sometimes I did play decks that relied on snarls.
Mhm.
I think even red blue had to rely on snarls, and that was one of the
Yeah.
most popular decks. Uh, but I would say for the good ones, like these creature lands, it's the opposite actually. Like these are going to be a massive part of standard for 3 years.
That's a
So
good point.
you definitely want to get them, and I would get them early just so you have them for the whole time. One thing about these ones is they're creature lands, like you say, that need to be tapped. These are very rarely going to be four ofs, especially in a 3-year standard when you have access to other duels. So I could maybe see a case where someone's like, I want 2 of each, and then after that, they're not on my no pass list.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'll try to pick them up. Personally, I'm grabbing 4 of all of them. I want 4 of all of them before I'm satisfied. Because these are creature lands are just very, very good, especially dual creature lands. And you never know, man, I might play 4. So yeah, I'm gonna pick up 4 of them. There's also you mentioned there's only like 6 other cards on your pass
Mm-hmm.
list. This is not the high power level set that the original Eldraine was. So I feel like I can target these a little more specifically too, because there's less than usual, I think, that I
Mm-hmm.
really want to make sure I pick up.
Yeah, for sure. The other ones will kind of like rise to the surface, and in the next couple weeks or so, when people are making cool decks, or you're seeing your streamers play certain things, and see if, oh, is that a meme or a dream or all that kind of stuff, you can then decide again, is this worth keeping on my list? Because you can always, add and take things off.
Change the
But
list, yeah.
I do agree with you. Getting 4 of the creature lands is what my plan is as well. But that's mainly because when I look at my collection, I like to see 4 of each card. It just makes me feel better. Except for specific cards I know I don't need 4 of, and it's just a waste of resources. If they're in a draft, pick it up. Pick them up every once in a while. If you have one in a draft too, they're just good. Your opponent won't have one. This will also be interesting because I don't think I've actually ever played standard where we did have dual creature lands. I've only been in a standard where we had like monocolored ones or colorless ones.
Yeah, I actually haven't played in standard with them either, but these were like a big thing in modern. Actually, is that true? Hissing Quagmire? Maybe I did play with these in standard.
Yeah, didn't you play during like there's a bunch in Battle for Zendikar and
Oh,
Oath of the
right. For
Gatewatch.
some reason, I always forget that block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, actually, okay, I did play with those ones in standard. Those ones were, I remember it's similar. It's so funny with these lands because I remember reading those and being like, wow, these are so much worse than the previous cycle,
Hmm.
but they were still everywhere, all over standard. They cracked their way into modern, and they were
Hmm.
worse than the previous cycle. Like there are no celestial colonnades, but basically it was just Wizards acknowledging that they got the first cycle wrong.
Hmm.
And that these ones were actually the appropriate power level. And I think these new ones we're seeing are more similar to the Battle for Zendikar ones than
Yeah.
the originals.
Well, it's so funny because to me, for a long time, just in general, I thought they all sucked. I was like, Celestial Colonnade, that card sucks. Every
Oh my god.
creature land, it's if it said enter the battlefield tapped, that sucked. I don't care what
Garbage.
else it does. But I was also playing Kitchen Table and like a bunch of other things and like Commander things where it's like it just didn't matter as much. It's like this doesn't matter. Um, and then you'd see like the really expensive version of like, oh, you could get your box topper and it's like Celestial Colonnade, and you're like, cool. Or like, maybe that was
Yeah.
one of the better ones, but like the Creeping Tar Pits and some of the other ones are just like, meh, meh. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I am excited for these, and they usually play pretty well, especially when we're going into like this. There's lots of white has a bunch of exile effects, so the best like exile, mass exile wraths and stuff. So one of the best ways to combat that is having your lands be creatures. So let's get it.
Yeah. So all 5 of these on my no
Hmm.
pass list, 4x of each. I'm interested in all of them. Plus, I just hate when you copy a deck list and you import it, and then you're like, wait, why do I need wildcards for this? And then there's like
Hmm.
one of this duel. They're playing 3 copies, you only have 2. You're like,
Yeah,
put it
and
this time.
you're like ah.
I don't want to worry about
It's
that.
like, do I want to change this? I hate changing deck lists. The amount of times I
Yeah,
accidentally crafted things because or just said screw it, whatever. I guess I'll craft this because I
yeah.
don't want to think about it.
Fine.
Because
Fine, craft it.
I'll just do it. Um,
Yeah.
That's also good to note. The only things on our no pass list are rares and mythic of rarity. Commons and uncommons, you will get enough wild cards
Yeah,
to
don't worry
get
about it.
those. Don't worry about those. Don't worry about getting them in your draft. Um, if you're having problems with that, maybe just craft only cards you know you need. That's a big thing, just in general. Because I don't know, having one of every card in arena is going to be very expensive and not really worth it. Um, yeah. Oh, also, as we go into this, I forgot to even bring this up because it doesn't even matter for us most of the time. But for the enchanting tales, art frames, and enchantments and stuff, there are a few that are banned before they even come into arena. And when I say banned, I mean banned in historic because they were only legal in historic. So if you're looking at that sweet necropotence that is sitting there in your draft, if you're not hard black, there's really no reason to pick it up because you can't play it anywhere. I guess, sorry, no, you could. I think you can play it in like historic brawl, so you need one. So don't get two. Don't waste a pick on another one. Um,
Yeah.
Same thing with Blood Moon and Spreading Seas for some reason. Why is I don't know why Spreading Seas is part of that. Do you know? Do you remember that card?
Yeah,
It's
spreading seas, it turns something into an island and cantrips, right?
yeah, and so
Yeah.
that is banned in historic. It sounded like a lot of fun to me, but whatever. You can't spreading seas into stone rain. They didn't want that.
No.
That sounds like
It's
so
just
much
like a
fun.
2 mana stone rain too much of the time because you take them off their color if they're not blue.
Yeah, but taking them off their color is so much worse than blowing up a land.
Yeah.
But it does replace itself. But anyway,
Cantrips though.
that was the one card I was most excited about playing from the things because it more so goes to the roots of I used to when I was a kid I was trying to build a Quicksilver Fountain deck, which is
Mm,
if you know Quicksilver Fountain, it just like every turn it puts like a flood counter on a land and that land turns into an island. And then once every land in play is an island, all the flood counters get washed off and you start over. But part of that deck was just playing like stupid big serpents that could only attack if my opponent had islands.
yeah.
Um, so
That's like the honest way to play spreading seas, and I love it. It's just like a
yes,
merfolk player. Their
hmm
creatures have island walk. They're like,
they're
ha!
like, ha! Now my creatures are unblockable. That's how. That's another reason why I would have wanted to play that card, but oh well, it's
That's how it
fine.
started, right? But then some people were like, wait a minute, I can always just play this on your creature land. I can
Yeah,
play this on your
I mean that is fine.
whatever
That
duel is, you know.
like getting a creature land with that totally acceptable. Like we have other cards that are totally fine and nobody cares that they're in the format. What blighted burgeoning, things like that. Um, but I don't know because it draws a card. Whatever. I like it. That's what I have to say. Oh, anyway,
It's a little blood moony, right? So if they're gonna get rid of blood moon, they should get rid of this.
it's true. It's true. Anyway, Jeff, do you want to talk about some cards that are on your no pass list that you're excited for? Things you want to do in standard or whatever? I'm sorry, I'm
Yes, the
feeling this
first one
beer right
I'm
now.
oh yeah.
Yeah, oh
The
yeah.
first one I want to throw out there is I think I am gonna go after Ashiok. If I see Ashiok,
Okay.
I'll take it. I haven't decided if I'm gonna go for 4 copies. Probably not.
Hmm.
Probably I'd be satisfied with 2. I don't really see this a planeswalker that I'm gonna play 4 of.
Yeah.
But I think it's just an interesting and pretty solid card and could be the type of thing that ends up in some weird Sultai deck that I build or like something like that, right? And
Hmm.
I kind of like the idea that it's the only planeswalker in the set, so it feels so much more
Special.
achievable. Whereas before it's like, oh man, there's like 5 planeswalkers. I can't put them all on the list because I'm not
Hmm.
actually going to be interested in them. I'm probably going to play none of them, so it feels
Hmm.
like such a waste. This is like if I pick up 2 Ashioks, I do 1% worse in a couple different drafts, like no big deal. Um,
It's true.
so I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna F around and find out with this card. So
I I like that. I think that's a really good point because he was not or is not on my list. And
Mhm.
I was just thinking, you know what? Planeswalkers, they come and go, whatever. I think now that there's only one in each set, it's going to be a bit harder to be like, oh, you don't want that one. It's not any good.
Right.
If you see a Planeswalker in your pack, it's actually going to feel really exciting again. You
Yeah.
know,
Now I think the effects of that are a couple years away when all of the planeswalkers
for sure.
rotate out of standard.
Whenever the Wandering Emperor is gone, and
Yeah, in her
and
many
so a
incarnations.
year from now, well, a year from now, the really good one, and then another few years
And
after
then
that, the
another
other
year
one.
and the pretty good one's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but
But that'll be cool. So I'm interested in just picking up planeswalkers for that reason too,
mm,
because 2 years there will be, five planeswalkers in standard or something, or six.
oh
I
my gosh, that's
guess
so
that's not true.
awesome.
There's like what, 4 sets a year. So there'll be like 12, but still much, much lower number than we have now.
That's true. Yeah, because there were so many that I'm forgetting ones that are just horrible.
Right.
so, um, so yeah, that's nice. I don't have it on my list, but I can see how I would probably just, if I'm staring it down in a draft, I will probably pick it up.
It's the other thing,
Um,
right? The list isn't exhaustive.
yeah,
Like if you see something in the draft you want it, be like, "Oh, it's not on my list. I guess I forgot to
mhm.
write it." Like, just take it.
Just take it.
Like the list is there to help you so that you don't have to worry about these in the moment. It's not to like punish you for not thinking ahead or something like that, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you're feeling that urge to like take the card in the draft, just do
Just
it. Just
just
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's arena. You're at home. You're drinking a beer. Just do it. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so I also have a card that I'm picking because you know what? Everyone's talking about this card. I read it when it came out. It seemed cool, but also just annoying. Um, and I'm assuming that it's just going to be in a bunch of lists that I want to play. So it's not necessarily a card that I'm personally being like, this card is so awesome. I'm so stoked for this. It's more so I know people are going to play this. I know it's going to be around, and I know I'm playing deck lists that this card's going to be in. So I should pick up some copies. So Beseech the Mirror is something we did not talk about most recently.
Mhm.
But it's one black, black, black for a sorcery with bargain. And it says you search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If the spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is 4 or less. Otherwise, you put the exiled card into your hand if it wasn't cast. Obviously, you're only tutoring up 4 or less with this because shooting it into play is so much better than just putting a card in your hand. Like this being what's the tutor that sucks?
Diabolical. Yeah.
Is it diabolical tutor? Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I
card's
mean, most tutors suck these days. Only
yeah.
the like old school ones are actually good.
I just diabolical tutor has been around for long
Yeah,
enough that it's
that's the one that
old.
sucks. Yeah.
It's just 4 mana, put a card into your hand. So that card's really bad. Just always. It doesn't matter. Like this is just a statement. It's
Yeah.
fact. Like it's a bad, bad card. You shouldn't play it
That is
in
a bad magic card.
any format that you
Yeah.
can play it in. Take it out of your commander deck. I don't care how casual you are. That card's bad.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just too expensive and too slow.
yeah. The reason demonic tutor is good is because you basically any card in your deck says it costs 2 more, and then you can play it. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that a lot, but being able to tutor something right into play that's at 4 or less, and most of the really strong cards are 4 or less, including Shieldred. Uh, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's a different story.
yeah.
I also have this card on my list. Um, I almost just blew past it,
Hmm.
right? Because I was like, yeah, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, 4 mana sorcery. I don't know why this is mythic rare. Seems
Hmm.
like trash. And I was like, all right, well, we should at least see what the bargain does.
Hmm.
And then the bargain, I did not expect this from the bargain. Put it into play. Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah. So
Well, it's not even just put it into play, actually. You get to cast it, which
mhm,
is generally better,
better.
actually.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, you're right. You're right because you could get a whole host of other things if you're casting it.
right. Anything with a cast trigger.
Hmm.
Um,
Plus, just
the
spells in general, they don't have to be permanents.
Right. I
So,
know the community is going crazy over 8 Shieldreds in your deck or whatever.
mhm.
Again, I don't think Shieldred is really the thing that we need to. I think this is what's going to happen a lot. People are going to play this, go get Shieldred. That's a good play.
Hmm.
But like, I just don't think Shieldred is as busted as everyone else does. So I think 8 Shieldreds is not like the. I don't think that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And playing this
Well,
card just to do that isn't that good. Like,
what
you
this
need
card,
flexibility for this to be good.
yes, what this card actually does, it means that you can run one Shieldred, but get it, but have five, kind of. If you ever want to get it, you can, but you can also get a whole host of other things. So it means that when you draw
Yeah,
your extra Shieldreds in your hand, they're not just dead and you just don't wait for your Shieldred to die to play another Shieldred. You can run one Shieldred and have a bunch of these, plus a bunch of other cards you want to play, and then tutor up whatever you need on that turn.
for sure. Um, One thing I wanted to call out about this card that is related to that is that a lot of times the modern versions of these cards will say like search your hand, library, graveyard, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is only library. So if your Shieldred dies in your
Mm-hmm.
one Shieldred for Beseech deck, you cannot go get another one with Beseech the Mirror. You lost it. You lost your one Shieldred. So there is disadvantage there to replacing the extra Shieldreds with this. Um, Not only do you have to bargain, obviously you have to sacrifice something, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think the decks that are doing this are going to have too much issue with that. It's more that okay, if you draw extra Shieldreds, that kind of sucks. But does it? Because Shieldred's like a lightning rod for removal. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually find drawing like I think the third Shieldred is usually kind of like ugh. But the second Shieldred is usually not that big a deal because you know the
Okay,
first one
so
is going bad.
Jeff, do you how many Shieldreds should you play? That's what I want to know now. Like, are you pro? Are you
If
like?
I were playing
There we go.
if I were playing 8 Shieldred
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, the realistic thing that my deck would end up being is probably like 3 Shieldred, 2 of these,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe the other way around. So you're upping your count to 5 virtually, not 8. I don't think you want 8. And that's what people are complaining about, I'm sure. It's, oh,
Mm-hmm.
8 Shieldreds, how am I supposed to beat that? It's like, have you ever played a deck with 8 Shieldreds? It sucks. Like
Yeah,
4
it's
mana is a lot.
the other thing is it's not eight because you'll only ever have four come out using this card. So
Right.
you just find it more often, but
Yeah, it does double the like amount.
percentage,
Yeah, Shieldred will show up. But like, I don't know, doubling 100% is already 100%. I don't know about you, but anytime I
yeah,
play
yeah,
against the Shieldred deck, that card's on the fucking battlefield on turn 4. So
exactly, yeah, yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know if this is going to change that. At least they're down a food token if they have to do it this way.
Yeah, or a blood or whatever,
Yeah,
or realistically, I don't know, a treasure or something.
and it's harder
Um,
to cast.
that's well, does that does that
In
ever
3 year
matter?
standard, hard to cast is always just like an LOL
Yeah,
comment.
like seriously.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, yeah. With just treasures being evergreen, cards aren't hard to cast anymore.
Yeah,
Like, you, it's it doesn't even matter.
yeah. Just
Yeah. I am more interested in this. Okay, so maybe one is not enough, but having two Shieldreds, this, and then maybe some uh other 4 mana stuff that we're hoping to have. Maybe some sweet big stompy shit or something could be fun. I mean, obviously green is useless, but I would want green to be good, and
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
I
Maybe.
think this is a well designed card because I think it's going to cause a lot of stir, and then
Mhm.
people are going to kind of realize that it's not as trivial to build decks with this as you think, because
Hmm.
you want to make it a 4-drop to really add value to this. But even playing that blue black, the Demir deck that we
Decks.
started with
Hmm.
when we played it, just having, what did we have? 4 Shieldreds and
Hmm.
3 Air Ties.
Ties. I
That was too many
was,
4-drops.
yeah, it was so
And that's
expensive.
that's 7 4-drops. So if you have,
Hmm.
like some number of Beseech the Mirrors, and then you have a bunch of 4-drop targets, it's hard not to get to 7 or past that.
Hmm.
And so, like, you're just talking too many 4-drops. I think where this card really is going to do, what it's going to do is it's going to get Shieldred most of the time, and it's going to get um whatever, like Graveyard
Liliana
Trespasser
or Graveyard
the other
Trespasser. Yeah.
10% of the time.
Hmm.
And that's what's going to make it pretty good, is if you already have your Shieldred, you go get Graveyard Trespasser, or you get like Liliana, whatever. Like 3-drops are totally fine to get with this card. They're just not what you're hoping for.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, I don't care about any of that. I like that this gets Ob Nixilis, and so we're gonna be getting Ob Nixilis with this.
Yeah.
This
Obnixilis,
is
you're
gonna be something I try.
the adversary.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
Come on.
one.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
I mean,
sometimes,
maybe both.
but
It does cast him.
but may,
Do you still get to do casualty when you cast him?
I think so.
Yeah,
That's a
probably.
good question. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I I've been operating under the assumption that I can,
Yeah.
like, when I read this card, but I guess it's possible that
I
I'm
mean,
not allowed to do that.
I think this card will be much better in that build than this. Just if you literally just took this card and put it into the Demir decks we were playing, you wouldn't be able to do anything. Like those are not built to have any sort of tokens around besides like Kaito makes like a 1/1
Yeah,
token. Besides that, you can't actually cheat anything into play. So that changes all of your 2-drops basically. Like you gotta there's a bunch of stuff you gotta change. And I think
yeah.
going in the
You need
Rakdos,
stuff to sack.
like you want this to be like black, red, black, green, maybe like that feels, or black, white, you know,
Yeah.
those feel
Yeah,
so
I'm
much better.
psyched for it in Anvil, because sometimes you just need to get. Sometimes this will get an Anvil. Like
Yeah,
sometimes you just don't have your engine piece or whatever.
that's true.
You
And
have
you,
everything else you're happy with, and you just like, I'm just gonna go get an Anvil right now.
yeah. Well, okay, so in that scenario, you're basically demonic tutoring your anvil because you're just
Mhm.
paying 2 on top of the 2, and that's totally
Right.
fine. That doesn't feel bad. That feels good, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
so that is where I think this card will shine a lot more. Um, so I'm glad we're on the same page. And as always, if Jeff has a deck idea with a card, I probably want to have 4 of that card, as should all of you and everyone who's on our Discord, because you know those deck lists are coming.
Yes. My initial build won't contain 4 of this, but
No,
you never know.
you never know. You can go up and down. Um, so yeah, Jeff, what else are we looking at?
Okay, I'm gonna bring up 2 cards at the same time because they're,
Hmm.
to me, they're very, very similar. That's Mosswood Dread Knight and
Hmm.
Decadent Dragon. We talked
Okay.
about Mosswood Dread Knight last time a little
Yeah.
bit, I think.
Yes.
They're both pretty much the same exact card. They're like just good adventure creatures where the adventure is card advantage.
Hmm.
Um, I think I don't know. I think Decadent Dragon is probably like the most powerful card in this set. I don't know. It's hard to say, but
Yeah.
it's
It.
Decadent Dragon is is just like a raw power card. It's going to
Mhm.
go in some sort of mid-range deck that has black and red in it.
Mhm. Yeah, so those who don't remember, Decadent Dragon is the one that it's the red 4/4 flying trample dragon that when it attacks you create a treasure. So of course with that text everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's freaking that dragon again."
Goldspan,
Goldspan.
this is not.
No.
This is not Goldspan.
It doesn't it we don't it's not going to immediately counter your removal spell every time
Right.
you target it. So, um
Yeah.
don't worry about
This
it.
is like I
So
actually first read this card. I thought it had haste, and I was like, "What
no,
the fuck is going on?" And then
no.
I reread it. And I was like, "Ah, no haste. It says
Now,
trample instead. That
yeah.
is much worse." Um,
Turns out
and it also
flammable.
doesn't double your mana, so
It doesn't double your mana, and when it gets targeted, it also doesn't make a treasure. So,
oh
um,
yeah, I forgot Goldspan did that.
yeah.
Like it needed that on top of the rest.
So like, this is obviously not that. Thank God. But this seems cool and good. Um, I think, yeah. I don't have a lot else to say besides yes, I agree. This says raw power. Both these cards seem strong, and it gives like Jund vibes. I almost want to play both of them together.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. There could be some sort of Jund adventure thing too. There's like some adventure payoff stuff happening.
yeah,
I could see that being a thing, like a Jund mid-range adventures.
for
I
sure.
think the fact that this to me like stands out as probably one of the best cards in the set.
Hmm.
It's probably also a testament to the idea I kind of mentioned earlier that this is a bit of a weaker set.
Hmm.
This, we predicted that this because Eldraine was so off the charts powerful that they knew they would have to reel it in, and they were a bit careful this time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think
that's what it looks like to me.
what happens basically when Wizards goes off the rails is, well, it took them 3 sets to realize that paying colorless mana slash paying no mana at all is really, really good, which is Urza Saga, Mirrodin, and then once again in Phyrexia, new Phyrexia, sorry. Uh, and then Eldraine, I think they were really worried about this is the new set that feels kind of goofy and is a little out there. Because when this first came out, Throne, people were like, oh, fairy tales and like cookies and stuff. I don't know. And they're like, oh, we really got to juice it to make sure this one lands because we really think this is going to be good and this is the direction we want to go. So that's when
Did they ever?
they crank the numbers too much, it's all the numbers. um and it throws everything out of whack, and they're like, oh, we're coming off of this big climax, we want the next one to be good and people to be excited about this thing. So whenever we come back to those things, they're like, we fucked it up. We screwed up the numbers a bit. We need the power to be very niche, so that's why there's so many
Right.
clauses on different things. I am happy that a lot of the different cards have clauses that aren't just powerful thing with once per turn. You know what I mean? Like they did
Yeah.
a good job of being like, this card seems really good in a very specific deck that isn't going to be meta strong or
Right.
needs a little bit of juice from something else. Um, which I think is really cool. That's great, and I'm happy with that because whenever
Yeah, I was
they.
actually going to express the same thing. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
really glad this isn't essentially Throne of Eldraine, but then they slapped everything costs like 2 extra mana more than it should on it, because that's
Yeah.
how they tend to react to these situations. Is like, all right, design the set and then make everything cost like one more,
Hmm.
and put a rider that makes it worse, like a downside at the end of the
Yeah,
card
like
too.
double breaks, like
Yeah,
pull both of them at the same time. Freaking
yeah.
champions of Kamigawa.
That way, it has no hope in hell of being
Yeah,
playable.
yeah. Look at how cool this art is and like the design of the world and everything, and every card sucks.
Yeah.
Um, so
Now it does feel a little like they did that in places, but it tends to show up in like, oh, the adventure for this just costs so much. Why would I ever play that?
yeah.
That kind of thing, which I think is a fun, fair way to do it, because it's like if an adventure is too expensive, then it ends up being one of those things where you just play the creature 90% of the time, but when you draw
Hmm.
that in the late game, sometimes like, hey, I do have 7 mana for the adventure.
Exactly. Which is how they basically should be. We don't need to go removal spell into beefy creature every time, you know.
I'm
Um,
glad there are so few of them, if any, that actually are that. Then there are a few of them that even curve into each other in a way that you care about. Like even the dragon,
mhm.
like yeah, it's 3 into 4, which is part of what makes it good. Um, but the 3 is card advantage. So the 3
Mhm.
like draws you these 2 cards, but then you probably want to play this on 4. So you're not even taking advantage of those cards right away. So there's like quite a delay in you actually using the cards from the expensive taste.
Mhm.
I predict a fair amount of the time you're just going to be casting Decadent Dragon on
Probably.
4. And because you wanted to do something else on 3, like develop your board.
Yeah, or you, well, you're doing expensive, or you're saying that you're not doing expensive taste on 3. Sorry, I was looking at another card when you were talking.
Yeah, I'm saying I predict there's going to be a fair amount of time where you actually just won't cast expensive
Oh,
taste.
and you just
Just
play,
cast the dragon on 4.
yeah, you just want to apply pressure. Totally. Like,
Yeah.
um, and even if not, even if you go expensive taste into Decadent Dragon, you want the dragon on the battlefield so you have treasures to play the cards that you got from expensive taste because it's so
Right.
expensive. You need that treasure. So,
Yeah.
um,
Um,
I
yeah, so it's
think,
going to be interesting. It's going to feel pretty different, I think, from the last round of adventures, where
mhm.
you almost never did that with the last round of adventures. Like, you would never play Bone Crusher without casting Stomp. You would stomp their face before you
Yeah,
did that.
exactly. Like, because you're just leaving the damage on the table. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, does feel good. I mean, the only time is if you're playing like Love Struck Beast when you have like 3/1/1s already, and you're like,
Yeah.
it'll my turn will work better if I do this. But
Or
um,
you're playing against Arna Hushinbet, whose sole purpose in life is to make Bone Crusher Giant feel awkward in your hand.
yeah, that's true.
So he's so good at that.
You're like, why is the best card in my deck so awkward right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did want to talk about another card that I probably won't play in standard, but this is one of the cards that I might play in Explorer, and it might revive
Ah,
an archetype that I haven't played in a while.
oh
Specifically,
boy.
um, so this is Ariete of the Charmed Apple. So 1 white black for the 2/4 legendary creature human warlock at Mythic. Each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras you control. So right now, Explorer doesn't have the auras deck that I want it to have because we're missing Gladecover Scout specifically, which would pull me heavy into green. And Gladecover Scout's a huge, huge reason why you play green in that deck. Um, Usually, in the past, when I've been playing enchantments or auras, the Orzhov one is always a little bit different and tends to go a bit wider, and you just play the game a lot differently than going tall and like protect the queen strategy. And this card slots right into that. It's only
Mhm.
3 mana, which makes me really happy because anything more than 3 mana, I don't want to play in that deck.
Yeah, it's just
Even
unacceptable.
3 mana is also like I might only like I'm thinking like 1 or 2 copies of this card is the
Yeah.
most you could play. Um,
Yep.
but being able to have cards that like shrink, like playing like dead weight and stuff in that deck is good to just like nuke people's creatures. But if you have Ariat out, it just like pacifizes them, which is really great, especially if something's too big to be dead weighted or different things like that, as well as being funky with your enchantments and being able to win the game without combat damage is going to go a very long way in that deck. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And just a bit of reach. Sometimes you
mhm,
won't be able to get through and you'll just drop this and you're like,
mhm,
drain you for 6, actually, is
yep,
how I'm going to win.
there you go. So I'd probably we'll see if I still play actual pacifism. Not sorry, not actual pacifism.
I was like,
Uh,
ooh, we're really
sorry,
reaching.
cooped up or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Some better version.
yeah, some better version of that card. Uh, and what that could look like if you're playing light paws or how many light paws you're playing because you want a lot of your enchantments to be on your opponent's creatures. Or is it like you play light paws, you put an enchantment on an opponent's creature, and then you get an enchantment for light paws, and so that can get a little dicey because you're already playing a deck that is like A B dependent, A being creatures, B being enchantments, and you don't want
Yeah.
C being enchantments you want on your opponent's creatures only. So
Right.
uh, because you're tutoring stuff, and when you tutor things for light pause, they have to go on light pause. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where all the cards in your deck are bad enchantments that you're putting on light pause. So that can get, we'll see how it works out, if that's how the deck goes, but definitely Shram. SRAM is the
Yeah, that'll
obvious,
probably make the cut.
yeah, the best one for this deck. Might be the hero instead of the light pause we've seen.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
This is probably, I guess, standard question.
Okay.
How do we feel about Ariette alongside Asinine Antics? Is that
Uh, um, that actually does feel really good, and I wasn't thinking
is
about
that
that.
something we're interested in, or is that too like Mimi?
It feels a little bit too memey, especially because Asinine Antics is a blue card. And I,
Right, so you have to be an Esper.
yeah, so
It's
it'd have to
also
be,
double blue.
it's double blue. Um, but it, I mean, the thing about Asinine Antics is that they're already so small that like them not being able to attack or block doesn't matter as much. But I guess draining them for just a butt ton.
Yeah, so I was looking at this card obviously as like, okay, the theme is aura tokens. So how many aura tokens can we get out there as
Yeah.
like quickly as possible? So Asinine Antics seems,
Hmm.
I mean, the combo is like right there, right? Because this will
Yeah.
make them all unable to attack and also
Small.
drain them for a bunch.
Yeah. Sorry, and small. Yeah, yeah.
And by the way,
And also
small.
they're small. My mind is so focused on asinine antics right now.
Yeah, I mean it's true. It will make them small as well, but
Yeah,
probably irrelevant.
yeah, probably doesn't matter. So if you
They
ever
can't attack or block.
if you fight my creatures, you won't be able to kill them.
That's
That's
right.
what's important,
Yeah.
because green is running rampant in standard right now. Um, I do love that idea. Like that seems really sweet. And we literally just said hard to cast. What is that? It doesn't matter. So you know what? That could be a thing. That could be possible.
And Beseech the Mirror comes out, casts both, and finds both pieces of your combos.
That's right. And there's gonna be a lot of like token auras around, so you can. Okay, wait. I and these are the best colors in standard right now. I am getting too excited about this now.
Folks
That's
at home, my sole goal is to get Zach to waste wild cards on Asinine Antics.
that's okay. I already have a couple because I picked them in a draft. But playing this card,
Nice.
by the way, playing this card in draft is hilarious. When somebody attacks you with 2/6/6 tramples and the rest of their board, and you just instant speed turn them all into 1/1s and eat everything, and then they just like they're giving you the good game, like you're good game, good game, good game, get wrecked, and you're like,
What was that, like a gruff triplets and you killed one or something?
that was that would no though that's the just the 6/6 trample gain 3 life card. That's good.
They just cast two of them.
Yeah, they
Old
just cast
school.
2 of them. But I did play through 4 gruff triplets
Jeez.
because they had played one. I bounced 2 of the copies and then killed the last one, and then they got it back from their graveyard, tried to play it again, and then I countered it.
I thought you were gonna say that they just jammed a second one because that would have been
That would have been horrible. But no, gruff triplets. That's a card, not for standard necessarily, but
no, that's the card that's like, ugh, it's annoying they put this at rare because I'm gonna have to lose to this so often.
so often. Yeah, yeah.
But hey, what can you do? This card like is not good enough really to be a mythic rare for. The only reason you would ever put it at mythic rare is just for this exact reason that you don't want it to show up too much limited.
Yeah, which is what Mythic Rare is for.
Yeah, I mean it should be, but it's mostly about like feeling. Mythic Rare is mostly about feeling, and new players have to open and be like, I feel like a mythic. And I don't know if this one does.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. So, yes, you are correct. That is what Mythic is for. I don't think that's how you should look at the rarities. Like, look at blossoming turtle or tortoise. Sorry, does this feel mythic and cool? Gruff triplets. Oh my god, gruff triplets feels so
Rift
much.
triplets.
It feels so much more mythic than the blossoming turtle. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's just because it's niche, and gruff triplets is not.
I mean, and it sucks. Gruff triplets just sucks in constructed. It's like
Mhm.
one of these cards are always a problem. The cards that are super dominant and limited and terrible in constructed.
Yeah, that's what's hard about having sets that you, or I guess just having a card game where people play multiple formats with, and then they create their own formats and get mad that you're not making cards for their made up format. And
Yeah.
then they start printing cards for that made
You
up
mean it's hard to
format.
design under those restrictions?
Yeah, it sounds just awful. Um, so rough.
Okay.
All right.
Rounding out my list a bit.
All right.
We talked a little bit about these cards before. Sir Ginger and Food Fight. These are like food sacrifice cards. Sir Ginger's going right into a
Yeah.
Rakdos Anvil builds.
Did we talk about Sir Ginger? I don't feel like we did. Did we?
I think we did like on the
A while
very,
ago.
because she was one of the first cards previewed, and I was excited about it. And I think I brought up.
I definitely remember talking about
Oh,
this in the Discord, but
did we
anyway.
just only talk? Oh, maybe we only talked about it in the Discord. All right, let's talk about Sir Ginger then. The Meal Ender. This is a 2-mana 3/1 legendary food knight. It has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as the opponent controls a planeswalker. I'll take that gravy text. Cool.
Mhm.
And whenever another artifact it controls put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and crucially, scry 1. And then it's a food, so you can sack it to. Oh, you actually gain life equal to its power. Nice.
Yeah.
Which
So
is 3 unless something else has died.
exactly. So it's just perfect. You gain 3 unless it got bigger. I love it.
Yeah, unless the cookie got bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that second ability is awesome. This is the type of thing that sacrifice decks have been missing. We had this like way in the past. There's always been a card that's like sack a creature, scry 1, or
Mhm.
whenever a creature dies, scry 1. And it just gives you, because after your third or fourth land, you just don't need lands anymore for the most part in these decks.
Mhm.
And you lose most of your games by drawing 5-6 lands. This card's going to go a long way in that. Like a 2-drop that you just play down and then will naturally scry, as well as become a big threat. But I'm most excited just about scrying,
Mhm.
because scrying is pretty close to drawing a card in these decks, because throwing a land that you didn't need to the bottom has the same sort of level as
Mhm.
drawing a card. Sort of like limited, when you're in the late game and limited, if you scry away a land, that is almost as good.
It's huge. Yeah.
Actually, it just is as good in most cases as drawing a card.
Yeah.
So this is going to provide that much needed card filtering to the Anvil deck. I'm always surprised. Anvil just keeps getting more tools, and I'm loving it. And now it's just like actually non-trivial to build an Anvil deck, which
Mhm.
usually it's like, well, these are the cards you have to play, so
Yeah.
here they are.
What I also really like about this, I mean, we have Sir Ginger, we also have Ginger Brute, which I don't know if you'd want to play, but um
I'm interested.
being a having your low end aggressive cards be colorless seems pretty nice,
For
because
sure.
then you don't have to, like, in your deck the only thing you're worried about is, can I hit Anvil on like 2 or 3? And this card's like, play me no matter what. Like, you don't also have to be like, if I play the card so I can play Anvil, then I can't play this card then, or I can't, this 1-drop doesn't fit in well, or this 2-drop or whatever. And if you're playing these cards, you're just like, these just like squeeze in wherever you need them, which is super nice. And it also
Yeah.
snipes a Liliana, and you could try to snipe a Wandering Emperor, but they probably have a Samurai to block. But yeah.
Love Sir Ginger. As soon as I saw that in the Discord, I
Yeah.
was like, yes,
Fuck yes.
I'm interested in this card. And then Food Fight I have on my no pass list as well. We talked about it last week. I don't know if it's actually good, but I'm excited to try it. So I'm going to take at least a few copies of it. And the last card that I think is really, really cool that I just wanted to call out is Virtue of Persistence. This is the black one.
Gotcha.
So it's Adventure is a fine removal spell. It's sorcery speed, which is quite a bummer. But if this were instant speed, it'd be totally playable. So it's like you're taking a downgrade on a removal spell here. But the upside you get on the other side is an enchantment that probably should win you the game. It's at the beginning of your upkeep, reanimate a creature from any graveyard. Now, again, it's an enchantment that doesn't do anything until your upkeep. So
yeah.
it's always a bummer. It's one of these things that I like what they're trying here. This enchantment they've done a million times before, but it's just too slow. But maybe stapling it onto an acceptable removal spell, like -3/-3 gain 2 life, is a strong removal spell.
It is.
At sorcery, it's little lackluster, but it's still good, like pretty good against aggro and stuff. So
yeah,
I think this card is something I would actually play almost just for Lochthwain Scorn, and then just a mild upside of sometimes you're going to slam this and just that's going to be your win con.
I mean, it's true. Like,
so I'm interested in picking these up because I think the front side is almost good enough on its own. And maybe it is, like, if mono red's super popular.
The front side? You mean the
adventure?
Oh, the adventure. Gotcha.
Lochthwain Scorn.
Okay, gotcha.
I meant the one you're playing first. That
that makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, I got
like it. If mono red is good, like Charming Scoundrel manages to skyrocket mono red into like tier 1 status, then this card is great because you're just interested in kill a creature, gain 2 life.
Yeah,
for 2 mana.
Yeah, definitely. And it like this. If this enchantment didn't have Lochthwain Scorn on it, there's no way you're playing this, like, ever.
No, it's too bad. It would have to say end step to be even interesting.
Yeah. So the fact that we actually get to like play around and like think about this is fun. So
agreed.
Yeah, I agree. That looks pretty cool. Jeff, how are we doing on beer? How are you doing? I
think we're exactly the same.
Perfect. That looks like one card's length left. So I have one card to talk. I think I only have I have 2 cards to talk about, but I'm going to talk about one right now. Which is the dumbest one, but I'm going to get him and I like it. So I put Regal Bunnycorn on my no pass list because it's a rabbit unicorn. But it's also 1 and a white for a star, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. Now, this card is sneakily like an Aura's card or an enchantment card because it does all the things that a lot of your Aura enchantment things already do, but without specifically caring about them. So it means that if you have the weird turns where like you don't have actual enchantments out, but you do have creatures that ended up being pumped out by your enchantments, this still cares about them. It still cares about all the different things. And this is, sorry, the deck I'm talking about is specifically the Celestia one right now, where you actually are playing Audacity, where you have Trample. So that does make this card much better. Now, obviously, it's just a big dumb idiot for 2 mana, but I like it. I think it's probably sneaky good, and I want to kill some people with some bunnies. So this one, I'm gonna add it to something. I don't know what it is exactly yet, but it's going in somewhere. The kid in me
this card
likes the star.
I think this card is good. Big dumb idiots for 2 mana have a history. So
Yeah.
sure people are calling this Tarmogoyf somewhere.
They they
Someone somewhere is calling this Tarmogoyf.
they are. I wasn't gonna say it. I was gonna say it, but people are calling this Tarmogoyf. Um,
Yeah.
the math is a little bit
This
easier with this one, to be fair, but
yeah. You don't have to worry about like what happens when you lightning bolt it and there's no instant in the graveyard yet.
yeah, yeah,
Because I have made that mistake before and I have
mhm,
cried.
yeah,
Yeah, this it reminds me a bit of the like Celestia auras in standard used to play Cami of Transience,
hmm
which naturally has trample, but has the worst ability of it only gets +1/+1 like for every enchantment you play after it.
hmm
This will do that. It'll buff for every enchantment you play, but it will also buff for the ones you played before. So
hmm
you can play this on like turn 4, have it still be good. That doesn't have trample, but come on, you're an Auras deck. I don't think you're
hmm
too worried about that. Once you have a gigantic creature, your whole deck is designed to get that through,
yeah,
whether that's flying or
that's true.
trample or whatever, like
hmm
unblockable, probably. Uh, you can figure that part out. Uh, I the thing that deck really just wants or craves is just ridiculous power scaling, and I think this offers that, especially if you can get crazy with tokens.
hmm
Um,
I
so
think
maybe
it.
this is even going right into your asinine antics combo deck.
I mean, I do control all those tokens, so
Hey man, if you play asinine antics at instant speed too to pump this, like,
I mean that sounds pretty good. But it's also good, like 4 mana Asinine Antics before combat. This guy gets
yeah, I
gigantic.
mean
None of your
way more likely.
yeah, your creatures can't attack or block. That actually is just the easiest thing to do. Um,
It drains you for a bunch. And, yeah.
yeah, but you probably die from the bunny corn. Um, no, I think it's nice and it has a good glue in it. Sometimes there's a weird realm where you have like these spirits, but you don't have any like enchantments to help out. And it kind of all those cards said like, oh, you need enchantments or oh, you need spirits, and it's kind of awkward. And this card's just like, I'm big, so that's nice. Though
Yeah.
obviously by itself is just a 1/1 for 2. But
Yeah, I think
anyway,
that's the part that's worth calling out is you do need to build around this a little bit. You need to have a plan that involves committing a lot of permanents to the board.
mhm,
Otherwise, this card is real bad. It's like it's a 1/1 for 2. Right. So
yeah,
um, I like the design of this a little better than Tarmogoyf because Tarmogoyf was kind of like I'm just always at least a 2/3 for 2 and
mhm,
probably better than that, along with some weird instant speed shenanigans and stuff.
yeah.
Um,
And then, oh, there's
this
new
is
card types that got printed. I'm
right.
different
Yeah.
now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you play a tribal instant?
Yeah. Oh,
Ooh,
that's
that
so
sucks for
stupid. That's so
you.
dumb. I thought that was so lame.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Um,
So this is a better designed version of the 2-drop that can get stupid big.
yeah. And it's, just much more straightforward and
Yeah.
cute and elegant. Yeah. It's awesome. I hope to see more of this. I hope it's not just the meme from the beginning. It actually finds a home because this into wedding announcement. Hey, we actually get
And
to.
I love that this is an arena player's card
Mhm.
because it's not like, oh, so you killed this thing, which made me lose this aura on this creature, and I responded by putting an aura on or a
Yeah,
token onto that. Hold on. Is it where what's my Bunnicornet when
yeah,
Dan
yeah.
and Lindsay sign? Just like, I don't know, Arena, how big is it?
Arena does it. Honestly,
Yeah.
like that's one thing about playing auras and paper is that I have to actually do the math, and
Yeah.
it's not nearly as fun as I.
Playing this in paper, you're just counting every turn. How
Yeah,
many
every two,
permanents do I
and then
have?
your opponent's asking like how big is it, and you have to cut, and then you like put
You're like,
dice
okay,
out,
hold on 1 second.
but they're
Yeah.
like, wait, no, but this dice is its +1/+1 counter I gave her from something else, and this dice is how big it is, and ugh,
Yeah. And then it's like you're not updating it every single time a new permanent comes into play because
hmm
you'll forget.
It's only when you attack and then your opponent like tries to do something and then you have to check. And anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh no, wait, it's not a 5/5 at all. It's a 12/12.
Well, oops, I'm sorry,
That
I
was a
forgot.
bad block.
Yeah. Anyway, I just made a bunch of treasure tokens. Um, yes. I have one more card, but I feel like let's go to a beer break because
Yeah,
we have had a long first run. Come back with the one I have left, and then we'll get into whatever else we get into. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
that's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener. But if you want to support the show even more, Patreon's the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co-host by, well, either buying me a beer,
Or buying me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to vote on your favorite host.
or if you'd rather just chat, chill, shoot the deck lists, you can do so on our Discord channel. The link for that should be in the show notes.
It is. And Jeff, I got a beer for us to close out this evening. It is called Morning Moon. It is from
Oh,
Wellington Brewing Company. This is one we haven't had a Wellington in quite a while. We had their Imperial Stout back in the in person days, I believe. Um,
yes.
so episodes like 1 through 11, I think, something
Their
somewhere in
Russian
there.
Imperial is very good, if
It's
I
very
remember
good.
correctly.
So that's one of the reasons why I picked this one up, just remembering, oh, Wellington actually had that really good Imperial Stout. I think this one will probably be good too. So this is Morning Moon, one of their IPAs. It's 6.2%, and the hops are Citra and Idaho 7. So, oh, as well as Cascade. I'm sorry. There's a lot of Cascade as well. So let's
Well, you,
see.
you give me an IPA with Citra and Cascade.
Mhm.
I'm gonna like it.
It's gonna be good. Let's crack it open. Here we go. Alrighty. So this episode has already been quite long. Our beer break is further into the episode than normal, but our first beer was also almost twice as much as a regular beer.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Are you kidding? Um, so really, we just have one more card to talk about, though maybe we'll slide into some other ones. Though, it's funny looking at these cards now because after you bring up the whole asinine antics in the Ariete deck, like now that's all I want to do. Because it seems so
We're
fun.
just gonna transition into a live brewing of that deck.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. No, just kidding. If that's something you're interested in, we could definitely get something together and work on something. Um, But the last card on my list is one of the first cards that I saw and seemed interesting when I was looking at um, all the Wilds of Eldraine cards, and it is Werefox Bodyguard. So this is one white for a 2/2 creature, elf, fox, knight. It has flash. Oh, I love me some white creatures with flash. Actually, I just love creatures with flash. Um, when Werefox Bodyguard enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target non-fox creature until Werefox Bodyguard leaves the battlefield. You can pay 1 and a white and sacrifice it, and you gain 2 life. So, uh, this is one of those cards that you can tell that they knew Brutal Cathar was rotating, because they're like, let's give white another one as Brutal Cathar is
Yeah.
going to rotate out, and then they made that decision later to make standard longer. So now we have another Brutal Cathar. Essentially, however, this one is instant speed, heavier on the white, and you can't do the whole like you Brutal Cathar my creature, so I'm going to Brutal Cathar your Brutal Cathar to get my creature back thing, which happens in
Yeah.
the mirror matches, which I think is
I was gonna
smart.
ask that. Like, it only says non-fox,
Mhm.
so it can't target other Werefox bodyguards, correct? Like,
Basically. Um, yeah. So I right before we started this, I did look up every fox that's in standard currently, and none of them are seeing play. It's a bunch of draft chaff from Kamigawa. You have Light Paws, which doesn't see a ton of play in standard, but who knows? Um,
Total garbage card.
and the only card that actually like does see. Okay, wait, sorry. No, not garbage card. I
I
have.
was hoping I could slip that one in there.
Yeah, I just completely missed that. Sorry. The only card that actually sees play in standard is the flipped face of Restoration for a Gancho, which is Architect
Yes.
of Restoration. So that is the
Yeah.
only real Fox that's been seeing play. So just keep that in mind. Um, but I do think this card is awesome because, like,
No, it's
in
very good.
heavy white decks that are like white weenie decks that need removal, having an instant speed answer is really big. And having those turns where you get to like instant speed, steal their thing, attack with a bunch of. Sorry, this beer is giving me all the burps. If you get to instant speed, like kill or remove one of their things, attack with a bunch of stuff, that seems pretty great. And it also has like a little clause of like, they're gonna kill it to get their creature back, so you just gain 2 life. Um, Not fantastic, but it's better than nothing. So
Yeah. I think it's so interesting um, to put that second rider. This is the first time I've seen this, and
mhm.
viewers can or listeners can correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think I've ever seen a card that does this, exile something, and then has a sacrifice ability on it, because that's so sort
Actually,
of counterintuitive.
yes. And as I'm thinking about that now, this is also to protect your own creatures.
So that was going to be my next point is
Yes.
this can exile your own stuff
Mhm.
and then return it at will with the sacrifice ability, which to be fair will be far less like the use case is definitely typical. It is a 2/2 flashes in, exiles your opponent's thing.
Mhm.
But I think there are non-trivial scenarios where you exile your own thing with this.
Yeah. Definitely, because like I am a big fan of all these cards in general. There's like, um, I've been talking about this type of card for years. We had
Yeah.
ones that do it to your whole board that phase them out. There's the like, uh, well, the thing is, I don't remember any of the names of the cards, but there's the one from New Capenna that's the 3/2 with lifelink that brings a creature from your graveyard back, and then that creature can't attack or block until this one dies, and then it can. Um, I think that this is a really good space to move into because it's very versatile. And I didn't really realize it until you were bringing it up right then. But now everything's clicking and I see the whole picture. Awesome card. I think this is actually the worst part of this card is that it's a 2/2, but everything else feels great.
I think this card is better than Brutal
Hmm.
Cathar, personally. I think there's just enough flexibility with the flash, saving your own creature, and the 2 life is relevant. Like
Hmm.
people I think Wizards has sent the message life gain doesn't suck anymore. People still
Hmm.
have that in their mind. Life gain sucks, life gain
Hmm.
sucks, life gain sucks. Life gain is good, man. You know how often I lose to stupid cards that just like gain an extra 3 life incidentally? I'm like,
Hmm.
son of a
Yeah.
bitch.
This is the
Um,
perfect time to learn that lesson because limited all
yeah,
about this is last time we were in Eldraine, limited was super grindy because everybody gained so much life. Same thing.
yeah.
This is we're in the same world.
Food
Food.
tokens do that, man. Food
Mhm.
tokens do that.
So don't forget, like, do your combat math when you're attacking. Also, just like remember, if you have food, like you might not be dead on board. Like, just I
Right.
mean,
You're almost if you have food, you're probably not. That's what
yeah.
I would say.
Hmm.
Like food is way better than you think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so I'm excited for this Fox and like more good white cards. Um,
It's one of the most interesting designs of this in this space I've seen them
mhm,
do in a long time because it's so easy to just fall into the trap of this is a good card that people like. Let's just keep making it.
mhm.
Um, this one is actually like I had to do a couple of reads to be like, wait, can I target other stuff or just my own? Can I target my own stuff or just my opponent's stuff? Oh, I can target my own stuff.
It can target
Like
whatever.
what can like,
Yeah.
and
As
that's another reason to have the fox rider, so I don't do some weird
mhm.
loop with my own foxes.
Yeah, that's true. And try to save your own things. Um,
Right, like I could get two of these flowing infinitely, I think, if they didn't have that rider, and then I'd get infinite like ETB triggers kind of thing. But
oh, sure, sure,
um,
sure, sure.
so they wisely did not allow that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think this card is great, and also it's awesome in a dubious challenge deck. So
You're
like
ooh.
just
Okay,
another
all right.
card, yet another card that combos with dubious challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Yeah.
They're just like laying it on thick. We get it. Dubious challenge is coming to arena. You don't have to spell it out so clearly.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is. You know what? I just want them to make Dubious Challenge like 2.0, and so that you'll like kind of jump over to this next one. Um,
It's the exact same card, but it looks at like 12 cards instead of 10.
yeah. Boom. There you go. Perfect.
Oh man, even dubious challenge gets power creep
Yeah.
these days.
Crazy. Oh. Anyway, um, as we close this out, Jeff, we've talked about a lot of things tonight. Is there one last thing you'd like to say about a specific card or overarching the whole set, and maybe what you're most excited for? Who knows? I'm just putting it out there.
Just throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I haven't actually gotten to play the limited format yet. But a cursory glance of the set, just reading through most of the cards as they came out, this seems like a good limited format. It seems to me like aggro will be relevant, but because of what you brought up earlier, like food tokens and all
Mm-hmm.
that, it seems difficult for aggro to be dominant. And those are formats that I like. Like
Mm-hmm.
they've made some reasonable aggro cards. When I look at some of the black red like rats stuff, like, whoa, this seems like it's a pretty solid limited archetype. Um, but then you're forgetting just how powerful food is in limited. And so I think, for all we can say about this set and constructed, the reality is it's going to be really tough for this set to break through. It's a 3-year standard,
Mm-hmm.
and it's competing with stuff that it wasn't supposed to be competing with when it was designed. That's always like a very difficult thing for designers to do. So a lot of the cards are like, to me, it seems like this was an intentional lowering of the power level of standard with some replacement type stuff. Like, hey, we're going to be losing this, so let's make a version that does a similar thing, but not as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like that's where they were going with this. With the change, the reality is now like this is a weak set for standard. I'm fairly sure of that. There are going
Mm-hmm.
to be some cards that pop out that are still good. And I think they sort of hedged their bets by putting the creature lands in, because creature lands
Mm-hmm.
they're a home run slam dunk. They're gonna see play for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty smart of them. I don't know if that was a late file decision when they realized that the set was weak and going to be entering. Like, I'm really interested to hear the story of, if there is one, about how those found their way into this set. But this is a kind of a weak constructed set. But it seems like it could be a really cool limited format. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for that more than anything. Um, is to
I
just draft the crap out of this set and pick up my
mhm.
creature lands.
Like, well, totally. And one last thing about limited before we go to last call. Um, I don't think I've really experienced this yet, but talking about that and it being like, hey, aggressive decks could really take over. I think that people forget that food tokens also just sacrifice for life because there are so many different ways to use food. There are ways to sacrifice things like bargain is all over the place, and most of the time I think people might be thinking, oh, I just need a food to bargain something so it's better. Sometimes not bargaining a spell so you can sacrifice your food for life is the play you need to make, and you have to be able to identify that. So um and that makes me really excited for the format because I I think that this could be really good. I'm pretty excited. I think this set's gonna be great. So um pretty
Yeah.
pretty stoked for this and the future and magic. So
Yes,
yeah.
I'm excited to draft black red and just crush people
And
with
black red.
hordes of rats.
Hmm. Perfect. I'm really excited to attack into hordes of rats that can't block, and then you die before that happens. So
All right,
perfect.
we'll see.
Anyway, Jeff, we have some beers to rate, so let's go into last call and get into that. So, as always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. And it doesn't matter what tier you are in currently, each uh, person is in a different tier at a different time. Yeah, that's what I usually say. Also, just like it's a fun way to rate beers. So, don't take it personally when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. We've only rated one beer bronze on the podcast. It happened recently, so go check out that episode. Um, but yeah, bronze is no good.
Yeah. Silver is just bad or boring. Boring can
Hmm.
also land here. So like a macro brew Budweiser, yeah, that's silver.
Yeah. Gold beers are fine, but you won't really think about them again. They're just like, yeah, they're just run of the mill.
Yeah. Platinum is one step up from that. They're solid. You would drink these again. These are good beers.
Hmm. Diamond beers are exceptional. You really like these beers that you show them off to your friends. You pick them up often.
Yeah. And Mythic, these are the absolute best of the best. These are the beers you would, you know, they make your all-time list. You talk about these to anyone who will listen, and you'd go to out of your way to find them, maybe.
Hmm. Absolutely. So Jeff, we have some we have some beers this evening. We have one super awesome one, and then one that you brought. Anyway, just kidding.
Oh, the trash talk.
Just kidding. Should we do a countdown? I don't know. Should we just pick the best beer? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Washed away by
Washed
sea.
away by sea.
Yeah,
I forgot the name of it, and it wasn't facing towards me when I pulled it, so I was like, Zach will know.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. This
That's a
dude,
good beer, huh?
so good. It was delicious. It's exactly what you would want. Like, it's a goza that's like not super sour or salty, but like there's like little bits of it there. It's not trying to be a margarita. Like we've tasted a bunch of margarita ones before.
Yeah.
Um,
So this is the first Goza. I believe this is legitimately true. This is the first
mhm.
Goza that I've had that I'd like. All of the
Really?
other ones I had are like some sort of gimmick and they
Hmm.
taste like garbage. Or they're like super salty, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I understand the gimmick of the salt, the margarita salty beer or
Hmm.
whatever. But like I don't want that. I
Hmm.
don't want a pint of that or whatever. This one is actually just a really good beer. And so I have to say it was less salty than I expected, given
Hmm.
my previous experience with gozas and the whole "oh, I want you to feel like you have salt water up your nose" thing. That
Yeah.
kind of like made me a little nervous. Um, but no, it's just a delicious beer.
It's absolutely delicious. Yeah, I want many more of them.
Like it's a saison first, and then it's yeah, you
It's
do
you mean.
get some hints of sea salt, and you get
Hmm.
um, some of that like less fruity, more salty
Hmm.
vibe to a saison, and I thought that was really
Yeah.
nice.
Sorry, is a saison always also part of the Goza family, or
I don't think so. I think
okay?
so. I think what this guy does is like saisons are his um, just generic beer that he's putting into these different barrels and aging with different
Gotcha.
things.
So
I
then,
think Gozas and saison, like one, just because one is German and one is French, it seems pretty
oh,
unlikely.
gotcha. Gotcha. So, brothers essentially. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, this I don't know. It feels really mellow, but like really tasty. Like this is the type of thing you could open and pair specifically with a meal when your guests come over, and you won't feel like uh,
totally. Like
a
this is adding
dope.
some class to the beer
Hmm.
world where I could be
Yeah.
like, hey, I have this nice bottle that I have
Hmm.
downstairs in my cellar.
Yeah, it'll pair
It'd be
well with this and
perfect with
this.
this meal.
Hmm. Yeah, like I could totally see that being a thing. Um, this I wanted to say recently I had oysters, and so now I'm just thinking about oysters all the time. um
Wait, for the first time or just like,
no, just like
okay.
again
I
recently.
was like, wait, how have we not talked about the fact that you've never had oysters?
No, I've had oysters many times. um but recently had a bunch, and I was like, oh, I forget how great they are. um and the chef at the restaurant that I work at was talking about how they're just like the perfect food because they are seasoned by the earth and the just the world, and
Mhm.
you don't need anything else. You just like there's an activity, you all of it. It's protein. It's just perfect. And I was wondering if this would like pair well with that because normally we're pairing like champagne and things, and I do think in a world you could pair like a goza like this where there's a bit of that salt because you're already kind of looking for it, and just like have a whole sea vibe when you're eating that. So
Yeah, yeah.
you could definitely come in and like look really, it could be really exciting to have a partnership between something like this and some sort of seafood. um
Especially since this isn't too aggressively salty. It'd
mhm,
just be like, oh, it's salt on salt on salt on salt. It's like
exactly.
you wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah. um so yeah, great. Knocked it out of the park, man. Like this is, I mean, Jeff, do you want to say it? Like,
I'm just gonna give this mythic.
yeah, this is
This was
mythic.
fantastic.
This is
Yeah.
great. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like 100%. This is something I'd want to have in my fridge and show off to people, and like drive to Hamilton to go check out this place and this dude, and like pick up as much as I can and just have it around because this is
Yeah.
not like, just like you said, this is giving class to beer world, which we're so used to cans. um Having a nice bottle and a nice elegant flavor, great,
Yeah.
delicious.
Awesome.
Now we can get drunk in a classy way without drinking wine.
Great.
um but it also brings us to Morning Moon. So that's IPA that we had from
Mm,
Wellington.
yeah.
um I also think is really nice.
It's
Like,
good.
yeah, all the things you were saying, like delicious beer. Wellington's a good brewery, and it has all the hops you want. It's like juicy in the way that we want it, with a
Mhm.
little bit of sweetness. But this is like super refreshing and just so tasty.
Yeah. This is a nice IPA. I'm like powering through it as
Yeah,
well.
on a
Yeah.
normal episode, like this would win, you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that this is also like, this is probably, I don't know. It feels like it's funny because normally we rate these much later, and this one we haven't drank nearly as much of. But like, this is probably Diamond, where like,
Yeah, I was gonna give this one Diamond.
yeah,
Uh,
where I really like this, um, and it just solidifies Wellington is just, they don't have a ton of beers on the market, but the ones they do have are good, and
yeah.
that's smart.
Like there's nothing groundbreaking, but making a juicy IPA with
No,
Cascade and Citra and stuff. But after doing this show, I've tried a ton of those. They're not all
yeah,
good, and this one is good. So
yeah,
it's like, let's just give
exactly.
credit where it's due. They know what they're
Hmm.
making. They made it well. And
Yeah, the
they
can's beautiful, the
yeah.
colors are nice, and
Can is really nice.
mhm, it's just,
I love like some magic art that's kind of in that stuff.
mhm.
It'd be really
Yeah, absolutely. You spreading seas, definitely.
There we go.
Yeah. It's all coming together. It's
Brought it back.
all coming
Brought it
together.
back.
Reeling it up. Anyway, Jeff, we got some mythics, we got some diamonds. It's a great episode, and it's all
Yeah,
hype
wow.
for the new set. Fantastic. Stay tuned to next week where we try more delicious beers and try not to rate them mythic because they're so good. It's so nice to have this right after the fucking bronze.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
anyway, let's go to closing time. Let's finish this up. You can always find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter or to Twixer or whatever we want to call it, and
Mhm.
Instagram. Yeah.
You also may find us on MTG Arena itself. We do own the account, Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That is Zeulberg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on the Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff, and I'd love to see any deck lists you have that are inspired by Wild's Veldrain.
Mm-hmm.
Link for our Discord channel should be in the show notes.
Yes. And please, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to YouTube. Leave a comment under this video. We really appreciate all the engagement, and we want to hear what you think. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that Wizards killed the dream of turn 2 spreading seas into turn 3 stone rain.
Good night. All right, that's fine.